It happened right after I accidentally set my hair on fire at my own birthday party. Not a candle, not a sparkler. A full, roaring, smelly bonfire on my head. People screamed. Someone threw a cocktail at me. I blacked out before I could even blow out the damn candles. And that, my friends, was the moment I realized I was officially that girl. The walking disaster everyone pities at brunch. And guess what? I was done being the universe's chew toy. No more Miss Hot Mess USA. I was going to fix my life. Or die trying. Preferably without flames this time. But of course, fate wasn't about to make it easy. "Hey, I'm Maddie," I blurted awkwardly to the mirror 3 days later, practicing for job interviews like a desperate kid rehearsing for a school play. 24 years old, Leo sun, chaos moon, dumpster fire rising. The mirror offered me no encouragement, just the same tired face staring back. Limp hair that hadn't decided whether it was curly or just depressed. Skin plotting a mutiny against every skincare product I'd ever bought, and under-eye bags so heavy they could technically qualify as carry-on luggage. I had exactly $3 in my checking account, a sociology degree nobody asked for, and a resume that listed barista, unpaid intern, and dog walker, like I was assembling some kind of ironic performance art piece called How to Disappoint Your Entire Family. Still. New year, new me, right? Armed with a battered laptop, an espresso addiction that bordered on medical concern, and the crushing terror of dying alone in a studio apartment with my cat nibbling on my corpse, I decided to launch my self-improvement journey. Step 1. Get a real job. Step 2. Stop dressing like a substitute teacher who gave up on life. Step 3. Somehow become the kind of girl people actually want at parties instead of calling security. I started small. I Googled how to be hot and successful if you're broke and awkward, which mostly gave me articles written by women named Aspen or Brooke who hustled their way into influencer empires by being thin, rich, and genetically blessed since birth. Not super helpful. But buried under the piles of delusion was some actual advice: fitness, wardrobe, networking. Translation: sweat, spend money you don't have, talk to people you hate. Fantastic. Cue Charlie, my accidental best friend, who looked like she'd been yanked straight out of an Urban Outfitters catalog and had no concept of failure. She was the type of person who could trip over her own feet in public and somehow make it look intentional and charming. Meanwhile, if I so much as sneezed in a mildly dramatic way, old ladies crossed themselves and small dogs barked at me. Charlie agreed to help on one condition. You have to do everything I say without complaining like a sad Victorian orphan. I am absolutely a sad Victorian orphan at heart, but fine. Whatever. Desperate times. Step 1 of Maddie's glow-up renaissance was apparently a gym membership, aka Hell on Earth, where all the mirrors exist solely to remind you how much you jiggle. I stood at the front desk, sweaty-palmed and already regretting my life choices, while Charlie flirted with the guy checking us in. "You'll love it," she said, tossing her glossy hair like she was starring in a shampoo commercial. "It's like church, but your God is protein and pain." Meanwhile, I was seriously considering faking a sprained ankle just to escape. 10 minutes into our first easy workout, I realized 2 things. 1, gravity hates me personally. 2, sports bras are a government conspiracy to suffocate the weak. Charlie gleefully crushed squats while I gasped like a dying fish on the mat behind her. Every part of my body was on fire. In a bad way this time, thank you very much. And I was 99% sure I'd somehow dislocated a lung. But here's the thing about hitting rock bottom. After a while, you kind of stop caring how stupid you look. There's something weirdly liberating about being the absolute worst person in the room. No expectations, no pressure. Just pure, sweaty, mortifying freedom. I collapsed onto the locker room bench an hour later, hair plastered to my forehead, smelling like shame and coconut-scented deodorant. Charlie handed me a neon pink smoothie that tasted suspiciously like regret and chemicals. "One step closer to hot girl summer, babe," she said, flashing me a thumbs up. I flipped her off weakly, then chugged the toxic sludge anyway, because if setting my own head on fire wasn't rock bottom, maybe, just maybe, I could actually claw my way back up. Maybe, if the universe didn't kill me first. By the third disastrous gym session, I had basically accepted that if personal transformation were a group project, I would be the weird kid everyone politely ignores while they do all the work. I was standing next to the squat rack, trying to discreetly Google how to fake fainting convincingly, when Charlie marched up dragging a third person behind her like a prize she won in a raffle. "This," she announced, "is Camilla. She's your new fairy godmother. Except instead of a pumpkin carriage, she has abs you could grate cheese on, and a skincare routine more complicated than a nuclear launch sequence." Camilla smiled. The kind of smile that made you instantly hate yourself, but also desperately want her. Approval. She looked like a Vogue cover decided to come to life just to ruin my self-esteem for sport. Glossy brown hair. Impossibly symmetrical face. Legs so long they probably had their own zip code. "Hi, Maddie," she said, her voice smooth and expensive sounding like the inside of a Tesla. "Charlie says you're a little project." I choked on my water bottle. "Cool," I croaked. "Love being referred to like a group science experiment?" Camilla laughed, like she just discovered peasantry was hilarious. "Don't worry, I love makeovers. It's like charity work, but funnier." Fantastic. I was a community service opportunity now. Thus began Operation Maddie 2.0, Phase 1, Wardrobe Detox, which apparently meant throwing 90% of my closet into a pile on the floor and judging it harder than Simon Cowell at a middle school talent show. Charlie held up my favorite sweatshirt, oversized, comfy, deeply stained from a tragic spaghetti incident, like it was radioactive waste. "This," she said solemnly, "is why the universe keeps rejecting you." Camilla didn't even touch it. She just looked at it and muttered, "Arson. Sheer arson against fabric." An hour later, I had exactly 3 surviving items. A black leather jacket that somehow passed the vibe check, a decent pair of skinny jeans, and an old concert tee from a band I'd pretended to like in college to seem cool. "Minimalism is so in right now," Charlie chirped. "You're welcome." I sat on the floor in my now mostly empty room, surrounded by trash bags full of my murdered wardrobe, wondering how many organs I'd need to sell to afford whatever replacement clothes they were plotting. They already had a plan. "We're going thrifting," Camilla declared, flipping her hair like she was delivering the Gettysburg Address. "Vintage is in. Plus, you can't afford real designer, and we don't want you looking like you're cosplaying Walmart Barbie." In case you were wondering, yes, being friends with confident, beautiful women is exactly as humbling as it sounds. It's like constantly getting dunked on by Instagram influencers, but in person. Phase 2, field trip to the thrift store. Thrifting with Camilla and Charlie was basically like watching 2 apex predators hunt. They prowled the racks with the precision of bloodhounds at a crime scene, snatching up blazers, boots, and jeans faster than my brain could even process what was happening. Meanwhile, I got my arms stuck in a tangle of coat hangers and nearly took down an entire rack of cardigans like a human wrecking ball. "She's a natural," Charlie whispered to Camilla, straight-faced, as I wrestled free like I was being born again, covered in polyester. At one point, Camilla held up a red leather skirt the size of a postage stamp and announced, "This would look amazing on you." I stared at it like it had personally insulted my ancestors. "That would look amazing on someone," I said, diplomatically. "Someone who's not currently shaped like a depressed cinnamon roll." Camilla rolled her eyes so hard I could hear it. "Confidence first," she said, slinging it over my arm. "Reality later." After 2 hours, several near-death experiences with unstable clothing racks, and one mortifying incident where I tripped and fell face-first into a bin labeled "Clearance Questionable Choices," we emerged victorious. Well, they emerged victorious. I emerged with 4 outfits that made me look slightly less like an underpaid substitute teacher, and slightly more like someone who might actually be allowed into a trendy brunch spot without getting side-eyed by the hostess. We celebrated our haul with overpriced matcha lattes at a cafe so hipster that I half expected someone to offer me a free ukulele lesson just for walking in. "You," Charlie declared, stabbing her straw toward me dramatically, "are going to crush life." "You," Camilla added, flipping through her phone, "are also banned from ever buying another zip-up hoodie. Ever." I smiled, genuinely for the first time in a while. Maybe, just maybe, I wasn't a lost cause after all. Or maybe the real makeover was the friends we bullied along the way. Either way, I had no idea that my first real test as the new Maddie was coming. And it was going to be catastrophic in a way no amount of vintage blazers could fix. There's a very specific kind of humiliation that happens when you try to reinvent yourself, and the universe immediately reminds you that you were, in fact, built for failure. Like, for example, showing up to your first yoga class with your brand new "I'm a serene wellness girl now" outfit, only to rip your leggings wide open during the first downward dog. I wish I was exaggerating, I really do, but there I was, frozen mid-pose, feeling an Arctic blast right across my backside, while the instructor kept chirping, "Breathe into your discomfort," as if I hadn't just become a public safety hazard. Charlie, of course, was in the front row pretending she didn't know me, while Camilla whispered something to the girl next to her that absolutely sounded like, "She's new. Be nice." If there had been a fire alarm, I would have pulled it. If there had been a conveniently placed open window, I would have jumped through it. Instead, I had to crab walk off my mat like a wounded spider, while 30 extremely toned strangers pretended not to notice the gaping hole in my dignity. Anyway, post-yoga, we regrouped at Camilla's place where she had apparently decided it was time for Phase 3, fixing Maddie's face. I say that with love and fear. "You have potential," Camilla said, squinting at me like I was a particularly stubborn math problem. "It's just buried under several layers of bad decisions and unflattering eyeliner." Before I could protest that my eyeliner choices were a form of self-expression, specifically expressing confused raccoon, she was already pulling out what looked like an entire Sephora branch from her closet. Makeup brushes, foundations, things in tiny glass jars that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. It was like being mugged, but politely and with contouring. Charlie poured wine while Camilla went to work, narrating every step like some twisted episode of Extreme Makeover. Human Disaster Edition. "First, we neutralized the redness," she said, dabbing something on my face that smelled suspiciously like regret and lavender. "Then, we tricked the light into thinking you're hot." 30 minutes and 6 existential crises later, I looked in the mirror and legitimately didn't recognize myself. My skin looked good. Like, suspiciously good. My cheekbones were visible. My lips looked like I had important things to say, not just random brain static. I touched my face cautiously, half expecting it to glitch like a bad video game. "You're welcome," Camilla said, looking deeply satisfied, like she'd just finished painting the Sistine Chapel using a broken Crayola set. Charlie high-fived me so hard we almost knocked over a bottle of serum that probably cost more than my car. "I feel like a fraud," I admitted, staring at my reflection. "Good," Camilla said. "That's how everyone feels. Welcome to womanhood." And because fate has a truly sick sense of humor, this was the exact moment my ex-boyfriend walked into the coffee shop where we went to celebrate my new face. Yep, Derek. The human embodiment of maybe it's me, but maybe it's definitely him. He didn't recognize me at first. He stood in line right behind me, tapping on his phone, completely oblivious. For a second, I considered just slipping away, unnoticed, like a sophisticated adult. Then Charlie caught my eye across the room, mimed an explosion with her hands, and mouthed, "Blow his mind." So naturally, I turned around and smiled and said, "Hi, Derek," in a voice so casual even I wanted to high-five myself. He looked up, blinked like he was trying to load a slow web page, and then, bam, recognition slammed into his face like a badly parked Prius. "Maddie," he stammered, as if I'd risen from the dead purely to haunt his gluten-free latte. I gave him my most innocent smile, thanked him for being part of my character development, and sauntered away without even spilling my coffee. I would have dropped the mic, but honestly, lattes are expensive. And for the first time in a very, very long time, I didn't feel like that girl anymore. I felt like someone who could, maybe, possibly actually win for once. I should have known that agreeing to attend a small professional networking event with Charlie and Camilla was basically signing a contract to publicly humiliate myself in high definition. First red flag, Charlie called it casual cool. Second red flag, Camilla said, "Just be yourself." Third red flag, the moment I walked into the venue, a rooftop bar with more neon lighting than a Vegas wedding chapel, I realized I was dressed like a confused intern at a tech startup, while everyone else looked like they'd stepped off the set of Succession. Nothing says I don't belong here like wearing Payless boots to a room full of Gucci loafers. "Relax," Charlie whispered, linking her arm through mine like she was dragging a feral cat to the vet. "You're here to make connections, not have an existential crisis." "Too late," I muttered, watching a group of finance bros laugh in synchronized hee-haws over some joke that definitely involved destroying someone's dreams. Camilla appeared beside us holding 3 drinks that looked like angry lava lamps. "Drink this," she commanded, handing me a glass that smelled like battery acid and bad decisions. "You'll loosen up." Loosen up, I did. 5 minutes later, I was standing in the middle of a conversation circle, nodding way too enthusiastically at a woman explaining her startup that, revolutionizes the e-commerce logistics pipeline for artisanal dog treats, whatever that meant. That's so important, I said, nodding like a deranged bobblehead. Dogs deserve artisanal experiences. Meanwhile, Camilla was effortlessly weaving through the crowd, dropping names like confetti, while Charlie cornered a DJ to ask if he knew any modeling agents who liked spontaneous, chaotic energy. I tried to escape to the bathroom to regroup, but was intercepted by a guy who looked like he belonged in a cologne commercial and smelled like he'd bathed in the entire bottle. "Hey," he said, flashing a blindingly white smile. "You look fresh." "Fresh? What was I, a produce item?" "Thanks," I said, trying to sidestep politely. He didn't budge. "I'm Brad. I manage talent for micro-influencers." "You got Insta?" Translation: "Please validate my existence so I can sell you some terrible teeth-whitening sponsorship." Before I could answer, a server tripped over my foot, which in my defense was barely sticking out, and sent an entire tray of shrimp cocktails flying directly into my chest. Let me repeat: shrimp. Cocktails, center. Mass. Time slowed. Everyone gasped. Somewhere a violin started playing the world's smallest sad song. I stood there, covered in shrimp juice and humiliation, blinking through the horror as Camilla and Charlie raced over, trying and failing spectacularly to look concerned instead of hysterical. Camilla threw a linen napkin at me like she was putting down a wounded animal. "Dab, don't wipe." "You'll smear." Charlie, bless her heart, tried to distract the onlookers by loudly announcing that shrimp was the new Chanel, but I was pretty sure the only thing I was trending toward was an immediate Uber ride home. Brad, to his credit, looked briefly conflicted, probably trying to decide if being publicly seen with a shrimp girl would damage his micro-influencer clout, then quietly melted away into the crowd. "Don't move," Charlie said, snapping a picture. "For memories." By the time I made it to the bathroom, I looked like I'd lost a fight to a seafood buffet. I stared at my reflection and genuinely debated crawling out the window and starting a new life as a lobster fisherwoman in Maine. But somewhere deep in my shrimp-scented soul, a tiny voice piped up. "You survived setting your hair on fire, remember? You can survive this." So I wiped off the worst of the damage, stole someone's emergency cardigan from the coat rack, sorry, random stranger, but desperate times, and marched back into that nightmare rooftop party like nothing had happened. Charlie and Camilla lost their minds when they saw me reappear, triumphant if slightly fishy smelling. "You," Camilla whispered dramatically, clutching her chest, "are a cockroach. Nothing can kill you." "Thanks," I said, straight-faced. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. And maybe it was. Because if life was going to keep throwing shrimp cocktails at me, I was finally starting to believe I could dodge, duck, and maybe even dance through it. Badly. Sarcastically. But still standing. You know that terrifying moment when you agree to go on a date because you're finally feeling semi-confident, but then immediately realize you have no idea how to behave like a normal, desirable human? Yeah, that was me. Charlie and Camilla practically threw a mini parade when I told them I'd matched with some guy named Noah on a dating app. "He's a marketing exec," Camilla said approvingly, after light-stalking him online. "He owns a dog and uses actual punctuation in his texts. He's practically a unicorn." Charlie just clapped like a seal at feeding time and yelled, "New era, baby!" Fueled by their delusional optimism, I agreed to meet Noah at a trendy burger place downtown that was so aggressively hipster, the menu didn't even have words, just minimalist sketches of cows and ironic hashtags. First bad sign, he texted, "Running a little late, parking's a nightmare, lol," 5 minutes after we were supposed to meet. Second bad sign, I, the living embodiment of anxiety, had already been there 20 minutes, stress sweating through my makeup while pretending to study the chalkboard specials. I tried to look casual by playing on my phone, but all I accomplished was accidentally liking a photo of my ex's cousin's wedding from 3 years ago. Fantastic. Publicly branded a stalker before the date even started. Noah finally arrived, breezing in wearing a distressed denim jacket and that smug little half smile guys get when they think they're hotter than they actually are. He kissed me on the cheek, a little too familiar, a little too soon, and said, "Sorry, I was FaceTiming my dog. He's so needy." I laughed because I didn't know what else to do, but internally my brain was whispering, "Abort mission, save yourself." Still, I powered through. The first 15 minutes were fine. He was charming in that polished LinkedIn influencer way, Talked a lot about building personal brands and optimizing emotional outreach, which I think meant being fake for money, but hey, who was I to judge? Then came the food. Somehow, I managed to order the single messiest item on the menu, the double trouble mac and cheeseburger. Picture a regular cheeseburger, but add molten rivers of cheese and the structural integrity of a wet cardboard box. The second I picked it up, it disintegrated. Cheese exploded everywhere like a low-budget horror movie. My hands were slick. My napkin dissolved. I swear I saw a woman at the next table clutch her pearls. Noah froze mid-sentence about his CrossFit routine, staring at the gooey apocalypse dripping down my wrists. I did what any self-respecting adult would do. I licked my fingers. Not cute, flirty licking like in rom-coms. Desperate survival mode licking like a Victorian orphan stealing soup. Noah's face twisted in slow-motion horror. I tried to recover by laughing, because if you don't laugh, you cry. And if you cry, you end up on someone's TikTok under the caption, "When you realize you're the date disaster." "So," I said, attempting charm while cheese oozed onto my lap. "Tell me more about optimizing emotional outreach?" He coughed awkwardly. I should probably get a napkin," he mumbled, and half ran to the bathroom. He didn't come back for 10 minutes. By the time he returned, I had accepted my fate. I was not a sleek, glowy goddess of the dating world. I was a hot, melty cheese goblin. We powered through the meal. Well, I powered through. He mostly pushed his kale salad around like it had personally offended him. When the check came, he did the classic fake reach for his wallet, followed by an Oscar-worthy performance of, "Oh no, I must have left it in the car. Can you spot me?" Which I, being a newly evolved, strong, independent woman trademark, agreed to without setting the table on fire. Barely. As we said goodbye outside, Noah gave me a half-hearted, "We should do this again sometime," which we both knew was a lie. And honestly, I wasn't even mad. Because for the first time, maybe ever, I didn't leave feeling like I'd failed some invisible exam called How to Be Dateable Trademark. I just felt like me, sticky, embarrassed. Laughing so hard in the Uber home that the driver asked if I was drunk. "Nope," I said, wiping my eyes, "just surviving another episode of Maddie versus the world." And somewhere between cheesy fingers and fake wallet acrobatics, I realized maybe survival was enough for now. You'd think after the shrimp cocktail fiasco, the mac and cheese burger disaster, and the I fell flat on my face at a brunch incident, I'd have developed at least a little self-preservation instinct. You'd think wrong, because when Charlie said, "We're going to a rooftop career mixer tonight. It's super chill," I heard easy, low-stress opportunity to be charming and successful. What she meant was a gladiator death match where LinkedIn addicts fight for internships and free cocktails. We showed up to the event, and instantly I knew I'd been set up. Everyone was wearing Serious Blazers trademark and holding serious conversations about scaling synergy and leveraging vertical markets, whatever that means. Meanwhile, I was in a polka dot dress and combat boots, looking like the lost member of a punk band that got trapped in a WeWork. "Smile," Camilla hissed, tossing her hair like we were on America's Next Top networking disaster. "Pretend you have 3 job offers already." Easy for her to say. She actually did. I clutched my drink like a life preserver and wandered into a conversation group that included a terrifyingly polished woman talking about her personal branding journey with all the passion of someone describing an actual religious awakening. "And that's when I realized," she said, eyes sparkling, "I wasn't just selling consulting services. I was selling myself." Healthy. I tried to nod intelligently, but must have looked like a malfunctioning bobblehead because the guy next to me, tall, slightly rumpled, refreshingly normal looking, caught my eye and smirked. "First mixer?" he whispered, like we were sharing a wartime secret. "Does it show?" I muttered back. "You're holding your wine glass like a weapon?" Fair. His name was Ethan. He worked in some boring-sounding finance job but didn't seem to take himself seriously. An actual unicorn at an event where most people were ready to murder each other over unpaid internships. We talked, we joked. I didn't trip, spill anything, or accidentally insult anyone's MBA program. For approximately 15 minutes, I thought, hey, maybe I can actually do this adulting thing. And then, the event organizer decided it was time for spontaneous pitch introductions, which was a fancy way of saying, "Everyone, stand up and embarrass yourselves in 30 seconds or less." They passed around a microphone like it was the world's most unwanted hot potato. Every second it got closer to me, I could feel my soul trying to eject itself from my body like a rejected SIM card. Camilla winked at me encouragingly. Charlie gave me a double thumbs up from across the room. Ethan just grinned like he was about to enjoy watching me publicly combust. The microphone landed in my hand. I stood. I opened my mouth. And because God has a vicious sense of humor, the only thing that came out was, "Hi, I'm Maddie. I'm passionate about, strategic snack-based innovation." Dead silence. 40 serious professionals blinking at me like I just confessed to being a raccoon in a trench coat. Strategic, snack-based, innovation. What does that even mean, Maddie? For 2 long, brutal seconds, I considered running straight off the rooftop into the parking lot. Then Ethan burst out laughing, loud, contagious, glorious. And somehow, other people started laughing too. Not cruelly, genuinely, like maybe, just maybe, they were tired of all the buzzword nonsense too. I handed off the mic with a dramatic little bow, accepted a round of polite and slightly pitying applause, and collapsed back into my seat, face burning but heart weirdly light. Later that night, sitting on the curb eating dollar tacos with Charlie and Camilla because we were too cheap to Uber home, I realized something kind of wild. Yeah, I was still awkward, still chaotic, still occasionally a human disaster zone. But for the first time in a long time, I wasn't trying to be anyone else. I was just me. Messed up, sarcastic, loud, real. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. I woke up the next morning with a splitting headache, glitter in my hair, and absolutely no idea how a dollar taco ended up inside my purse. Just another Sunday in the life of Maddie 2.0, I guess. Charlie and Camilla were already awake, sitting cross-legged on my living room floor, sipping iced coffee like 2 smug little goblins who somehow never suffered hangovers. "You killed it last night," Charlie said between sips, her voice way too chipper for someone who'd witnessed me declare myself the queen of snack-based innovation trademark. "Truly iconic," Camilla added, tossing me a Tylenol like she was tossing fish to a performing seal. "You're like a chaotic phoenix, constantly setting yourself on fire but somehow making it fashion. Touching." I grunted and pulled the taco out of my purse, staring at it like it might explain how my life had reached this point. It didn't. "You know," I said, flopping back onto the couch dramatically, "I'm starting to think maybe I'm just meant to be a lovable disaster forever." Charlie grinned. "Honestly, the world needs more lovable disasters." Camilla raised her coffee cup like she was making a toast. "To Maddie," she said, smirking. "The girl who fell face first into adulthood and decided to stay there." I laughed so hard I almost dropped the taco. Again. And just when I thought the moment couldn't get any better, just when I thought maybe, finally, life was settling into something resembling chaotic but happy normalcy, my phone buzzed. It was an email. Subject line, "Congratulations, you've been selected." Heart pounding, and still mildly caffeinated to the point of medical concern. I opened it. "Dear Madison, thank you for your passionate pitch on strategic snack-based innovation. We believe your disruptive mindset is exactly what our startup is looking for. We would like to offer you a full-time position." I blinked. Read it again. Looked at Charlie and Camilla, who were now staring at me like I'd just announced I was pregnant with twins and moving to Mars. I got a job," I croaked. "In snacks?" Charlie said, eyes wide. "In innovation," I corrected weakly, because apparently lying to save face was still very much part of the Maddie experience. Camilla snatched the phone and read the email out loud, word by word, voice getting shriller with every line. "You manifested a career by accident," she said finally, looking personally offended by the universe's choices. I shrugged, stunned. Guess I'm just built different. And that, my friends, is how I accidentally became a professional in snack-based innovation. If you fake it long enough, sometimes life is dumb enough to actually believe you. Stay chaotic, my friends. Stay very, very chaotic.